This video is brought to you by Sporlan, quality, integrity, and tradition.
So the complaint is that this guy's making a loud noise. They have it unplugged at the moment. This is a brand new refrigerator. Let's have a look back here and let's plug it in and see if we can hear this noise. That's coming from the condenser fan motor. That's not a good noise. So back in here, the condenser fan motor, let's get the covers pulled off. I don't like these little things that they all of a sudden did. They put these bushings there, but they come out. So you take the screw and then the bushings fall. It's kind of silly, but they separate it from pushing on the new compressor they're using is the problem. All right, I have it off at the power switch. The motor's vibrating. Interesting. Let me get the motor pulled out and have a look at it. There's nothing really wrong with the motor. The sticker is on backwards, but when it runs, it vibrates. So I was like, nothing's really loose either. Everything's tight. So it's just going to be a bad motor more than likely because there's a vibration coming out of it too. So I'm going to swap out the motor. I happen to have one, so swap it out and see what it does. Got to pull this whole back side here. That's ugly, huh? To be able to get to the electrical because the motor is going to run up and wire into this. And on the R290 stuff, you always want to go back with OEM. So I got a new motor right here. All right, let's turn this guy on. See what happens here. There we go. It's running. Nice and quiet. So there's just some weird vibration in this motor causing that issue. All right, I'm gonna put it back together and watch it come down to temp. This wiring's a giant mess. It's just stupid how people get away with this stuff. Manufacturers, right? Like that's insane. At least if you kind of pull it tight, you can shove all the wires in here. I'd rather them be all loose inside that box than like dangling in here. So it really didn't have to do anything but just pull the slack out and push it into this box. But all right, I gotta put everything back together. All right, it is good. Coming down to temp. Should be good to go. We're going to give the customer the keys and tell them to keep an eye on it, and I'll deal with the manufacturer for the warranty for that motor.
So that was a short one, but I think it's still important to show, you know, there is a routine that I have. There's, you know, I understand the operation of this particular refrigerator I'm working on, right? So as I'm going through, the customer says, hey, there's a loud noise, you know. So the first thing I do is I visually inspect everything before I plug it in, right? Visual inspection, don't see anything like stuck in the fan motors. That's why I opened up the one on the inside, made sure it wasn't iced up, you know. So we're not just going over there and just jamming the cord in there and saying, huh, what happens? We're kind of doing a quick visual, make sure nothing obvious is going on. So then once that point hits, I plug it in and you can clearly hear the sound. So then as I'm listening, I'm looking, trying to identify, and I can clearly hear it coming from the condenser fan motor, okay? So this comes from understanding the way that this refrigerator works and, you know, previous troubleshooting experience. I kind of know, you know, what these sounds mean and stuff, right? So we work our way through there. Now, I said a key point a few minutes later, and I know there's going to be some contention about this, and I said that it's an R290 unit, so you have to use OEM parts, okay? I'm telling you that to protect you, okay? Because here's the thing. R290 is an unodorized flammable refrigerant, right? You can't smell it. If there's a problem, insurance companies are going to get involved, okay? I can promise you, you may be best friends with the owner of that restaurant, but you're not best friends with his insurance company. If something bad happens with that refrigerator, the owner of the restaurant, the only option he's going to have is not running it through insurance and paying the claim out of his own pocket because of something bad that happened with that refrigerator. And that's not going to happen. Insurance companies are going to take over. When the insurance companies take over, it's going to be your insurance against their insurance. And the first company right there, they're both basically looking for a way to not have to pay a claim. Okay? That's just how the insurance companies work. It's just the way it goes, right? So they're going to be looking at everything. They're going to try to point fingers at everybody. Don't give them an excuse to point the fingers at you. If you use a non-OEM part, then there is an argument to be made that that might be part of the reason why something bad happened with that refrigerator, okay? And when I say bad, because we're talking about an unodorized flammable refrigerant, what happens if there's a fire? Now, there's a very minimal amount of refrigerant in the system, so the odds of something catastrophic happening are very, very slim, but still protect yourself, protect your company. I highly suggest that you only use OEM parts when it comes to especially R290 systems or hydrocarbon flammable systems. One might even argue A2L systems, right? Because A2L systems are going to start coming out in the future. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But especially when it comes to the A3 refrigerants, which is what R290 and R600 isobutane is, okay? I highly suggest you only use OEM components. That way there's no excuse for anybody to try to point fingers at you. Always follow proper practices, do your due diligence, you know, just cover your butt, basically. Okay, so I realize, you know, I'm not arguing that R290 is the best thing to happen to the refrigeration industry since sliced bread or anything like that. We're not even getting into that, but it's here, and you have a choice: work on it or don't. And if you choose not to work on it, well, you're alienating yourself, and you're not going to have much work to do. Okay, because if you work in restaurant refrigeration, R290 refrigerators are the most common refrigerant for self-contained units now. Okay, it is what it is. So either you work on it or you find a new part of the industry to work in, right? And if you're running away from things like that, I mean, you know, it's going to keep coming and keep coming. So you might as well just embrace it. That's my motto, the way I go with it. But anyways, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. So I took you through my troubleshooting steps, you know, diagnosed, hey, there's got to be something going on with the motor, pulled it out, spun it, looked at it. It's like there's nothing obvious, but clearly when it's running, something's out of balance. It's going crazy. Put in a new motor, which I happened to have one in my truck at the time, swapped it out, and everything was good. So it's an easy call, but it's really easy to forget the basics when you go to some of these calls. So it's always important to remember, like, just because it's a super simple reach-in doesn't mean that you need to turn off your skills, you know. Use some logic when you're diagnosing and troubleshooting, and always cover your butt with OEM parts, in my opinion, when you're dealing with R290 systems, okay? Really appreciate you guys making it to the end of the video. If you haven't already, please consider checking out my website, hvacrvideos.com. Merchandise available, including hats, beanies, sweatshirts, all that good stuff. So check it out again, hvacrvideos.com. If you're interested in supporting the channel, as usual, there's a bunch of different ways, but the easiest way to support the channel is watch the videos from beginning to end. That really is the easiest way, okay? Again, my website is one way to support it. PayPal, Patreon, YouTube channel memberships. There's links in the show notes. If you're interested in purchasing any tools, TrueTechTools.com. I have an offer code, big picture, one word. When you use my offer code, you get an 8% discount on majority of the items on their website, and I get a small commission from that, okay? A few things the discount doesn't apply to, but majority of the items you're good to go, okay? So TrueTechTools.com. Yeah, and I think that's it. Thank you so very much, and we will catch you on the next one, okay?